This is the extended lecture that consists of a few extra slides on the lecture on the U.S. presidency. The executive branch consists of a number of positions. The president is considered to be the presiding officer for the executive branch, as well as the government. The cabinet consists of a number of departments, each of which is in charge of a different field of life in the country, such as agriculture, commerce, defense, education, energy, health services, homeland security, etc. And the president chooses the people who lead these departments in the government. He nominates them and the Congress approves them, or the Senate approves them. And then there's the White House staff, which are the closest people to the president. And these include the chief of staff, the press secretary, senior advisors, and special assistants that the president works with every day. Then there's the executive office of the president, which consists of a number of offices and councils that are also in charge of some important matters, such as the Council of Economic Advisors, who simply create various macroeconomic policies for the president to consider. And lastly, there are independent agencies and corporations of the U.S. government, and these include CIA, Environmental Protection Agency, and General Services Administration, etc. Executive order is a term that we hear quite a bit nowadays. Executive order is an order issued by the president, and it's a message from the president, an order from the president to federal government agencies to do or not to do something. So it's not a law in the traditional sense. It has a very restricted scope. It only applies to federal agencies, and you can think of it as the government version of memorandums in the corporate sector. When you know how the CEO sends a memo to the workers for them to do something, executive orders are the government versions of that version of that. The president sends them over. They may not be considered as a law, but they still carry the weight of a law. It's still quite influential in the way that the government handles its business. It doesn't have any obligatory power on the state governments, and it also doesn't require the approval of the U.S. Congress, which is the main appeal of it. So when a president does not want to work with the Congress to get their approval for various things he wants to do, then executive orders can become a useful instrument for that purpose. However, executive orders are not immune against the judicial review. So the courts, the federal courts at all levels, can nullify them and reject them and end these executive orders. One example is the Trump administration's Muslim ban, or with the official name, Executive Order number 13769, and this was overturned by a number of state and federal courts as unconstitutional orders, and it was accepted only after a number of revisions made by the Trump administration. First ladies have been influential figures in U.S. politics as well. So when we discuss the U.S. presidency, we need to discuss the role the first ladies can play. So I provided a video about 10 most influential first ladies in the U.S. history. Please check it out on your own time as well. And lastly, a word or two about LBJ. Lyndon B. Johnson was a Texan who became the U.S. president, and in terms of domestic accomplishments, he was one of the most successful presidents in U.S. history in terms of how many programs he could pass to support the vast majority of Americans, especially disadvantaged segments of the society, and he's rose from the ranks of being a teacher to a minority school in rural Texas to become the U.S. president with his determination, with his character, with his competence, and the conscience. And he was also quite an interesting character as well in many ways. And so it's please know LBJ well. And I'm providing here another video that talks about his life and legacy. Please check it out. Also visit the LBJ Museum in Austin at the University of Texas campus. This wraps up our discussion on the U.S. presidency. Thank you and have a great day.